Have you ever wondered if a single sound in the woods could change your fate? Especially when that sound whispers your name. That night, Jake was just out for a normal hunt. A rifle, a dog, a familiar snowy trail. But a few hours later, he heard something no one's ever been able to explain. Voices, drifting through the trees, getting closer every second. And when the footprints appeared, he realized something out there was following him. Stay with me till the end, because by the time this story's over, you'll know exactly what was hiding in that forest. Snow was falling lightly, and the trees seemed to be hiding something. The air was heavy, so thick it was hard to breathe. The hunting trail was familiar, but today, every branch and every scent felt different. Bucky, his loyal dog, walked ahead with his tail down and ears stiff. Somewhere between the pine trees, he suddenly stopped. He didn't bark. He just froze and stared at a single spot. Jake pointed his flashlight that way. At first, he saw nothing, but a few seconds later, a footprint appeared in the snow. Huge, deep, and wrong. He crouched down to get a closer look, and that's when he realized the heel was facing forward, and the toes were backward. It was like someone had walked on reversed feet. Steam rose from the snow. The ground was warm. He reached out to touch it, but then, from deep within the forest, came a soft, stretched-out whisper, like someone breathing the words from the bottom of their lungs. Go back. Jake froze. Bucky howled and vanished into the mist, his sound fading fast. For a moment, everything stopped, even the wind. Total silence. A silence so thick, it felt like the forest itself wasn't breathing. His flashlight flickered. Snow hit his face, but he didn't feel the cold. Only that voice echoing inside his head. Go back. Go back. And the strangest part, with every whisper, the ground beneath him grew warmer. So, Bucky was gone. Jake shouted his name, but his voice drowned in the fog. The air felt like it was pressing against his chest. He could only hear his own broken breaths. For a second, he thought about turning back. But curiosity, that stupid, dangerous curiosity, pulled him forward. He followed his own footprints, only to realize there was another set right beside them. Same size, same depth, same rhythm. Like someone or something was walking in sync with him. He stopped, listened. Nothing, until a snap echoed through the mist, like a branch breaking under a foot. He swung his flashlight toward the sound. The beam hit a wet tree trunk. A red smear stained the bark. He touched it. It was wet, metallic, blood. Then, a drop fell on his face from above. Jake tilted his head up and froze. Hanging from the branches was something that looked like an animal's carcass, but the skin was too smooth, too perfect. It was swaying gently, not from the wind, from breathing. Then, a low, muffled laugh came from right behind his ear, carried by a warm gust of air. He turned. No one there. Just the second trail of prints, now ending at his boots. In the next 5 minutes, you're going to be shocked. When people first heard Jake's story, most said he'd fallen victim to something called the infrasound effect. It's a real phenomenon. Low-frequency sounds that mess with the human body. When sound dips below 20 hertz, you can't hear it, but your brain feels it. Your pulse spikes, your skin crawls, and you start to sense someone watching you. In dense, damp forests, these sounds can form naturally. Maybe that night, the wind between the trees created it. But here's the problem. Jake had a recorder with him, and those sounds were actually captured. When experts analyzed the file later, they said the frequencies weren't natural. One of them fluctuated between 17 and 18 hertz, the same frequency that makes the human eye vibrate. That vibration tricks the brain into seeing shadows that aren't really there. But there was another sound, one that didn't match any known pattern. A faint, repeating whisper hidden in the static. Go back. It's too late. Jake followed the prints until he reached a steep slope. The fog was so thick, his flashlight barely reached his own boots. Below him was a deep valley, a place where sound seemed to die. Locals called it the Silent Hollow. At the bottom sat a rotted wooden cabin, roof half collapsed, door wide open. Jake carefully descended, each step swallowed by snow. He pushed the door open. The air inside reeked of wet earth and decayed wood. On the wall, written in charcoal, were the words, "Don't look behind you." A torn map lay on a table, lines drawn like trails of footprints. One spot marked in red, exactly where he was standing. From above came the faint sound of dripping. He looked up. No drops, just a dark, spreading stain on the ceiling. A shadow moved across the wall in front of him. Jake slowly turned. The beam of his flashlight caught part of a face. Just eyes and a mouth. No nose, no proper skin. Then the light flickered out. When it came back on, the shadow was gone. But the words on the wall had changed. "You shouldn't have come back." His heart pounded like a drum. He grabbed his rifle and bolted from the cabin. Snow up to his knees. Fog now hot and heavy. His breath sharp in his chest. Behind him, footsteps. Slow, steady, confident. Like a hunter who knew the prey wasn't getting away. He pushed upward, but each step sank deeper, the ground softer. The air stank of rot, metallic, sour, dead. He tripped, his hand landing on something rough. Animal skin. Dozens of them, stitched together, spread across the ground like a rug. He stumbled up again, panic blurring his vision. The footsteps were closer now. His flashlight swept ahead, revealing an open clearing. A circle of skins hanging from the branches, each one with a single hole in the forehead. In the middle stood a shape, hunched, wide-shouldered, holding something dangling from its hand. Jake focused. It was Bucky, his dog, hanging from a rope. But when he stepped closer, Bucky turned his head. No eyes, just two dark holes and a stretched grin that reached his ears. Jake didn't scream. He couldn't. The ground trembled. The mist wrapped around him. And the last thing he heard was that same whisper, closer and colder than ever. I told you to go back. Jake ran out of the valley, but no matter how far he went, it felt like the path kept looping back down. Every time he climbed, the ground seemed to tilt under him. The snow had turned into something like sand, swallowing his boots. The light grew weaker and weaker. He pointed his flashlight down and froze. The prints on the ground weren't his anymore. They were its, the backward ones, the same ones that had been following him since the start. He stopped, chest heaving, and saw a faint yellow light in the distance, flickering like fire. He ran toward it with everything he had left. It was a burned-out tent, half collapsed, a single old lantern glowing inside. Next to it lay a notebook, waterlogged and cracked. He opened it. Most of the pages were ruined, but one sentence was still visible. Whoever follows the footprints becomes part of the forest. His hands shook as he flipped to the next page, filled with photographs. Hunters. Hunters, their faces blurred, their shapes half-faded. One of them was him. Same jacket, same hat, and behind his shoulder, a shadow, big, watching. The lantern light dimmed, and for a split second, he saw that same shadow reflected in the glass, right behind him. His breath hitched. He turned around, but there was only mist. And that voice again, closer now, whispering, "You can't go back anymore." If you've enjoyed the video so far, Make sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss more amazing stories. Shh! The next morning, the search team set out. They found Jake's gear, but not Jake. The strangest thing was the compass in his bag. The needle kept spinning in circles. Scientists said it might be a magnetic pulse from the ground, but there was no magnetic activity in that region. One environmental physicist suggested it could be a variable magnetic anomaly, something that usually happens near heavy metals or energy sources. But there were none, just trees and silence. A week later, one of the search team members reported a faint signal in the nightly recordings. The frequency fluctuated, and when they processed it, it turned into the sound of breathing. Heavy, rhythmic, human breathing. Between the breaths, a whisper. Go, go. They laughed it off until the final clip, when the voice said a name. Dave. The next day, Dave went missing. Some researchers now say that the area might be experiencing a natural resonance, a mix of wind, temperature, and terrain that traps and repeats sound in bizarre ways. But there's another theory, one few dare to mention: environmental memory repetition. The idea that certain places can record emotional or energetic trauma like a magnetic tape and replay it under the right conditions. Every time someone walks through, the memory reawakens until eventually someone new becomes part of it. One of the last rescuers later claimed he'd heard a dog barking, Bucky's bark, unmistakable. He followed the sound to an enormous tree. There, he saw the reversed footprints exactly like in Jake's report. He said the ground felt hot under his boots. His flashlight flickered, and for a moment, he saw a figure, a man in hunting gear, standing motionless, facing the tree. When he called out, the man slowly turned his head. No eyes, just a wet, stretched smile. 2 months later, weather sensors started picking up strange nighttime sounds from the same region. At first, they thought it was just the wind through the valley. But even when the wind dropped to zero, the sound kept going. The frequency ranged between 17 and 19 hertz, the exact range known to trigger visual hallucinations in humans. But the pattern of the sound changed over time. It wasn't random anymore. It had rhythm, words, a repeated, distorted phrase. When they amplified it, the words became clear. He's still here. Birds flying over the area would suddenly change direction mid-air. Thermal scanners recorded bursts of heat, as if something massive was breathing beneath the snow. Scientists blamed underground geothermal vents, but there were none. The only thing they found was an old lantern, still burning. The same one Jake had seen himself reflected in. Undone. A year later, a documentary crew went to that forest to investigate Jake's story. Only one of them came back. 3 days later, unconscious, frozen, clutching a notebook. Inside, one line was written in shaky handwriting. I am the voices. I came back. No one ever proved whether he wrote it himself, or if someone or something else did. When they checked the footage from his camera, most of it was static, broken sound. But in the final few seconds, there was a single clear frame. A man wearing a hunter's hat, standing in the fog, staring straight into the lens. Behind him, something moved. A shadow with backward feet. That footage was never released to the public. Only one copy exists, locked away in a university archive in Washington. But some say every time that tape is played, the voices start again. So if you ever find yourself alone in the woods and you hear a whisper through the trees, remember, he's still out there. And maybe he's still out there. He's just waiting for someone else to follow the footprints. If you were Jake, would you have turned back or kept going? Leave your answer in the comments. Maybe your theory is the final piece of this puzzle. But this is only the beginning, because what they found in that forest later changed everything. So don't miss the next video.